I am Vivian, stepping into this world just a few breaths behind my twin sister, yet I was born with a congenital deformity in my leg, a small gap that seemed to separate our two fates. There were nights when I lay awake, wondering if destiny had already decided that I would always be a faint shadow next to her radiant glow. Have you ever felt abandoned by your own family, like an unwanted thing no one cared to pick up? I have, and this story will reveal why that feeling has never left me. Listen closely, because what I am about to tell you is not just about injustice, it is a wound that will never heal. My sister Sophia and I were born in a white wooden house nestled in the quiet suburbs of Oregon, where endless barley fields stretched beneath the gray sky. Our parents, Margaret and Henry Carter, were the epitome of middle-class America. My mother, an interior designer, always appeared with her golden hair tied high, and her polished heels clicking against the floor, as if every day was a fashion show. My father ran a small auto repair shop, often covered in grease, yet carrying the calm demeanor of a man devoted to his family. From the outside, we looked like the perfect picture of family happiness. Until you realized that in that picture, I was nothing more than a faint, hurriedly drawn smudge in the background. The favoritism began when we were just 4 years old. The age when everything between twin sisters should have been identical, like 2 drops of water. But no, Sophia was always the shining star in our parents' eyes. I still remember the first time I truly noticed it, when our mother took us shopping at the local mall. Sophia walked out of the store in brand new pastel pink Adidas sneakers, glittering under the lights, while I trailed behind in old sandals from the discount bin. "Vivian, you don't need new shoes, your feet grow too slowly," my mother said, her voice gentle but cutting, then turned to stroke Sophia's hair. "And you, Sophia, you have to look your best for your friend's birthday party." I stood there, clutching the plastic bag containing my cheap sandals, feeling as if I had just been cast out of my own family's world. The differences didn't stop at clothes. Our shared birthday was the clearest proof of all. When we turned 7, my mother threw a grand backyard party, complete with balloons, a 3-tier cake, and even a clown for entertainment. Sophia was dressed in a sparkling turquoise princess gown, while I was given a faded gray jumpsuit my mother had pulled from the bottom of the closet. When it was time to cut the cake, Sophia's slice was always bigger, topped with extra frosting and fresh strawberries, while mine was a tiny misshapen piece, as if someone had hurriedly chopped it off just to be done with it. "Sophia loves sweets, you should let your sister have more," my father said, his deep voice firm yet final, before turning to smile at Sophia as she proudly showed off her new gift. A pricey American Girl doll. I, on the other hand, received an old stuffed bear from a thrift store, its fur matted and one eye missing. Even extracurricular activities became Sophia's stage. When she was 8, my mother enrolled her in ballet, followed by violin lessons, and every week she was driven to the cultural center with a beaming smile. Once, I hesitantly asked, "Mom, can I learn ballet too?" She glanced at me, her gaze cold, as if I had just said something ridiculous. "Vivian, we only have enough money for one. Sophia has talent, you should just stay home and read books." I swallowed the lump in my throat, nodded, and quietly retreated to my corner with the tattered old book I had read dozens of times. Meanwhile, Sophia twirled in her new ballet shoes, our parents' proud eyes following her every move, as if I didn't exist. The family photos lining the living room wall told this story more clearly than words ever could. Sophia always stood in the center, beaming in expensive dresses, while I was pushed to the edge of the frame, my sad eyes hidden behind messy hair. Once, I overheard my mother bragging to a neighbor on the phone. "My Sophia is such a treasure, so beautiful and talented." Not a single mention of me, as if I were nothing more than a ghost in my own home. These small wounds piled up, like pebbles weighing heavy in my heart. I told myself I didn't need fancy dresses or new shoes. But what I longed for, my parents' attention, their love, was something I would never receive. Sophia was the light, and I was just the forgotten shadow. Time passed, but the distance between Sophia and me never narrowed, it only grew wider, sharp as a blade cutting into me each day. Family celebrations from birthdays to Christmas became Sophia's stage, where I was nothing more than a forgotten spectator standing at the edges. My parents, Margaret and Henry, seemed to forget they had twin daughters. In their eyes, only Sophia shined, while I was nothing but a speck of dust, not even worth wiping away. Our 10th birthday is a memory I can never erase. My mother transformed our backyard into a wonderland with crimson ribbons dangling from trees and a dessert table overflowing with chocolate-frosted cupcakes. As always, Sophia wore a regal purple silk dress embroidered with flowers, looking like a princess straight out of a fairy tale. I, on the other hand, was dressed in an old, worn-out sweater my mother had pulled from the back of the closet, a dull brown that no one even noticed. When the guests arrived, my mother pulled Sophia into the spotlight, her voice filled with pride. "Everyone, look how beautiful my Sophia is today." I stood silently by the wooden fence, my fingers gripping the slats, watching as all eyes turned to her in admiration. My father was busy taking pictures, the camera lens focused only on Sophia as she blew out the candles, while I was merely an accidental blur in the background, captured only when I reached in for a piece of cake. The family photos hanging in the hallway only reinforced this injustice. In one picture taken at a nearby park when we were 9, Sophia stood in the center, clutching a bright red balloon, her smile glowing under the sun. My parents held her close, while I was pushed to the side, nearly hidden behind an oak tree, my lost eyes unnoticed by anyone. Once, I heard my mother bragging to our neighbor over the fence. "My Sophia is a little prodigy, she's only 10 and already performing violin solos at the school festival." I stood there clutching my sketchbook that my art teacher had just praised, but my mother never even glanced at it. "What about Vivian?" the neighbor asked. My mother let out a dry laugh. "Oh, she's just ordinary, nothing special." I started working harder at school, hoping that perfect grades would finally make my parents notice me. In elementary school, I buried myself in assignments, stayed up late solving math problems, and read until my eyes burned. When I was 11, I brought home an award for placing first in the school science competition. My father glanced at it, gave a half-hearted nod. "That's good, Vivian." Then turned to Sophia. "Tell me about your violin practice today, sweetheart. What did your teacher say?" Sophia beamed, her voice bright. She said, "I'm the best in the group. Next week, I get to perform a solo." My mother placed a hand on her shoulder, her eyes shining. "That's amazing, Sophia, you make me so proud." My award sat alone on the table, untouched, forgotten, never picked up a second time. All my efforts were meaningless compared to Sophia's achievements, though sometimes I wondered if they were truly as grand as our parents made them out to be. When Sophia brought home a bronze medal from the district ballet competition, my mother threw a special dinner, with roasted beef and homemade pudding. "My daughter is a star," she exclaimed, hugging Sophia so tightly I thought she might suffocate. At the same time, I had just been selected for my school's debate team, a rare accomplishment for someone our age. But when I shared the news, my father merely muttered, Good, but you need to try harder. Now go congratulate Sophia." I swallowed the lump in my throat, retreated to my room, and shut the door to keep the laughter from the dining room from cutting deeper into my heart. The holidays only made me feel more like an outsider in my own home. Christmas at 12, the tree in the living room was overflowing with presents, most of them for Sophia. A delicate music box, hand-knitted gloves, and a shimmering silver necklace. I received a plain paper notebook and a cheap ballpoint pen. "Vivian, you don't like big gifts anyway, right?" my mother said, her voice light but sharp, before turning to help Sophia open her music box. I nodded, forced a smile, but inside I wanted to scream. I deserved love too. That injustice kept growing, like a fire burning quietly inside me. But one day, when I accidentally overheard my parents talking in the kitchen, everything became clearer than ever. My father's voice was low. "Sophia is everything we hoped for." "But Vivian," my mother interrupted. "She makes us look bad, Henry. Maybe we should just let her figure out her own life. We don't need to be too involved." My heart stopped. the question hung in my mind. What would it take for them to see that I wasn't just some foolish, useless child? The night I heard my parents whispering in the kitchen, something inside me shattered. Their words were like a hammer smashing the last hope I had ever held on to. I, Vivian, 12 years old, stood frozen in the hallway, fists clenched, silent tears falling onto the cold wooden floor. At that moment, I understood, my parents' love was not something I could beg for or fight for. It belonged to Sophia. And to them, I was nothing more than an afterthought. I turned my back on that pain and made a decision. If I couldn't have their hearts, I would carve my own path. With or without my flawed legs. I threw myself into studying with the hunger of someone desperate to prove themselves. Night after night, in my tiny room under the dim glow of my desk lamp, I solved complex math problems, memorized the periodic table, and wrote essays until my hands ached. I stopped bringing home certificates. They were meaningless in the face of my parents' indifference. Instead, I kept them tucked away in my drawer, like secret medals proving my worth. At school, I began to shine. At 13, I ranked first in the school math competition, surpassing students 2 grades above me. Mrs. Parker, with her sharp eyes and silver hair, called me to the front of the class, her voice full of pride. "Vivian, you have a rare talent. This solution is outstanding." I gave a faint smile, tasting the bitterness of victory. Because at home, no one would care. But Sophia did. She began watching me with narrowed eyes, her expression tinged with irritation. Every time a teacher praised me, I would hear her pencil tapping aggressively against the desk, as if she wanted to stab through the wood. One day, in science class, when I was chosen to explain a chemistry experiment, Sophia scoffed under her breath, just loud enough for me to hear. "You probably memorized the answer beforehand. You're not actually smart." I turned to her, my voice cold. "If that's what you think, why don't you try beating me?" Her face flushed red and she fell silent, but I knew the fire of jealousy inside her had just been lit. That night, I sat on the staircase, listening as Sophia cried to our mother in the living room. "Mom, the teachers hate me. They keep praising Vivian, making me look bad in front of the whole class." Her voice trembled, full of resentment. My mother's reply was sharp as scissors. "What? How dare they? Sophia, you're the best, everyone knows that." I gritted my teeth, waiting to see what she would do. The next morning, my mother stormed into the school, her high heels clacking angrily against the hallway floor, her perfume thick in the air. I hid behind a bookshelf in the library and watched her march into the principal's office, her voice thundering. "I want to know why the teachers here are treating my Sophia unfairly." Mrs. Parker remained eerily calm. "Mrs. Carter, I can show you the grades. Vivian has consistently been at the top. As for Sophia, she needs to put in more effort." My mother cut her off. "Are you saying my Sophia isn't good enough? You're clearly biased toward Vivian." When she got home, I heard her ranting to my father over dinner. "These teachers are idiots. They dare to say Sophia isn't as good as Vivian. They're humiliating her just to uplift Vivian." My father growled. "Then that school is garbage. Sophia is the one who deserves attention. Vivian, she's nothing special. Maybe they just pity her because of her disability." I stood outside the door, my heart tightening. They could defend Sophia all they wanted, but they didn't care how much their words cut me. But I knew the truth. I was better, and no one could take that away from me. My achievements kept stacking up. At 14, I won first place in the statewide essay competition, my piece on climate change, published in the local newspaper. Mr. Harris, my English teacher, patted my shoulder. "Vivian, you have a bright future. Don't let anyone hold you back." I nodded, pride swelling inside me. Even though I knew that at home my mother would throw the newspaper into the trash the moment she saw my name on it. Sophia, however, grew more resentful. One day, she slammed my notebook onto the floor, her voice seething. "You think you're so great? I'll show you that I'm the one who deserves all the praise." I picked up my notebook, smirking. "Go ahead and try, Sophia." But the thing that intrigued me the most came on a rainy night when I accidentally overheard my parents arguing in the garage. My father's voice was heavy. "If Vivian keeps this up, she's going to surpass Sophia. What are we going to do?" My mother's voice was chillingly calm. "Don't worry, Henry, we'll find a way." Find a way? To stop me? What were they planning to do to me? When I turned 16, I decided that if my parents didn't need me, then I wouldn't need to rely on them either. The mocking words, the disdainful glances from my mother and Sophia, had pushed me to my limit. I wanted to stand on my own feet, no matter how thorny the road ahead was, no matter how people ridiculed my imperfect hands. On a drizzly afternoon in Oregon, I walked into Honeybloom, a small bakery near my school, clutching a hastily written job application on lined paper. The owner, a middle-aged woman with curly red-dyed hair, peered at me over her round glasses. "Are you sure you want to work here, kid? This job is tough." I nodded, my voice firm. "I need the money and I don't mind the work." She smiled and handed me a pale yellow apron. "All right, you start tomorrow, Vivian." The job was anything but easy. I spent hours wiping tables, baking pastries, and brewing coffee, the scent of flour clinging to my hair, my hands burning from hot trays. But every dollar I earned was another brick in the foundation of my freedom. I no longer had to beg my mother for a few dollars to buy books, only to hear her sneer. "Vivian, what do you need money for? Sophia has real expenses." One morning as I tied my apron, getting ready for work, Sophia strolled past, holding a smoothie our mother had just made. She smirked. "Oh wow, are you planning to bake for the rest of your life? That's pathetic, I feel embarrassed for you." Mother stood beside her, hands on her hips, adding, "Vivian, stop making a fool of this family. Sophia has singing lessons to focus on. Don't bother her." I glanced at them, tightened my shoelaces, and replied coolly, "Don't worry, I don't need anyone to be embarrassed for me." But life wasn't just about the insults I had learned to ignore. One evening, as I cleared off my mother's desk to make space for my homework, I accidentally came across an old, worn leather notebook. Inside, under the heading, "No Contact," there was a handwritten address. Eleanor and Thomas Reed, 47 Pine Lane, Astoria. Astoria was over an hour away by bus, a small coastal town known for its tree-lined streets and ocean breeze. Then I remembered. Years ago, my mother had screamed into the phone, her voice filled with anger. "I don't want anything to do with you anymore, Mother, living in that rundown house, you're an embarrassment to me." So these were my grandparents, the ones my mother had cut off, just because she saw them as poor and disgraceful. But I didn't hesitate. The next day, instead of going to the bakery, I got on a bus, clutching the scrap of paper with the address, my heart pounding as if it would leap out of my chest. When the bus stopped at Pine Lane, I stepped off, the salty sea breeze whipping through my hair. In front of me stood a small wooden house, its white paint peeling, but the front yard was alive with wildflowers in full bloom. I knocked, my breath catching in my throat. The door creaked open, revealing an elderly woman with silver hair tied low, her deep blue eyes filled with quiet wisdom, and an old man with steel-rimmed glasses, a folded newspaper in his hand. They stared at me, stunned, until I finally spoke. "I'm Vivian Carter. I think I'm your granddaughter." Eleanor clutched her chest, her voice trembling. "Oh my God, Thomas, it's her." Thomas stepped forward, his eyes glistening. "You look just like Margaret when she was young, but why are you here?" They pulled me inside, the warm scent of apple pie filling the cozy space. I told them about my mother, about Sophia, about the years of being forgotten. Eleanor took my hand, her wrinkled fingers surprisingly warm. "Vivian, you don't know how much we've longed to see you. Margaret cut us off, but we never forgot you." Thomas nodded, his voice steady. "Here, your family, you're not anyone's shadow." From then on, I visited them often, lying to my mother that I was working night shifts at the bakery. They welcomed me with simple dinners, potato soup, toasted bread. But each meal was filled with a love I had never known from my parents. Eleanor taught me how to knit, while Thomas shared stories of his youth spent sailing off the coast. For the first time, I felt seen, truly loved. One afternoon, as I brought them a box of cookies I had baked myself, Eleanor hugged me and whispered, "You are the greatest gift we have, Vivian." But happiness never lasted without a storm. One evening as I washed dishes in their kitchen, the phone rang. Eleanor picked up, and her face went pale. "Margaret, yes, she's here with us." I froze, water running over my hands. My mother had found me. And what would happen now that she knew where I was? Graduation day arrived like a gust of wind over Oregon's barley fields, bringing with it a mix of joy and bitterness. I, Vivian, stood on the school auditorium stage, my deep blue gown flowing as my name was called. The valedictorian of my class. Applause filled the air, but from the family section, I only saw my parents, Margaret and Henry, silently nodding, their expressions unreadable. Then, when Sophia's name was called, despite her merely graduating with average grades, my parents leapt to their feet, cheering. "You're amazing, Sophia, we're so proud of you." As if she had just won a Nobel Prize. I pressed my lips together, gripping my diploma tight. I told myself that my achievements didn't need their validation. But deep down a part of me still wished they would finally see me. The next morning, I walked downstairs feeling lighter, hoping that graduation might mark a new beginning. My mother stood in the kitchen, holding a coffee mug, an uncharacteristic smile playing on her lips. "Kids, we have some exciting news," she announced, her voice brimming with enthusiasm, as if she were announcing a lottery win. Sophia bounded down the stairs, her ponytail swinging, eyes sparkling. "What is it, Mom?" she chirped, bouncing around the table. My father entered, holding 3 plane tickets, grinning. "We're going on a summer vacation to California to celebrate Sophia's graduation. The beaches in Santa Barbara are waiting for us." My heart pounded, a flicker of hope sparking inside me. Maybe, just maybe, I was finally included in a family plan. But then, my mother turned to me, her voice sickly sweet. "Vivian, you'll stay home and watch the house, okay? We can't leave it unattended, and besides, you're busy with your baking job, aren't you?" Sophia giggled behind her hand. "Yeah, keep wiping those tables, sis. I'll send you lots of pictures." I stood frozen, as if someone had thrown a bucket of ice water in my face. "What? I just graduated, as valedictorian. Why am I not going?" I snapped, my hands trembling. My father frowned, replying curtly. "Sophia needs a vacation to relax after all her hard work. You're fine, staying home for a few weeks won't hurt you." My mother nodded, adding, "You're very smart, Vivian. That means you need to stay home and keep studying. Sophia deserves a break. She's exhausted." I turned away, running up to my room, swallowing the tears that threatened to fall. They didn't need me? Fine, I would prove I didn't need them either. The next morning, I stood by the front door, watching as the taxi carrying my parents and Sophia sped away, leaving behind a trail of dust. Sophia stuck her head out the window, waving smugly. "Goodbye, Vivian. Don't get jealous when you see my beach photos." I clenched my fists, then turned back into the house and picked up the phone. "Grandma, they left me behind," I said, my voice tight. Her response came immediately, warm yet firm. "Vivian, take the bus and come to us, we have a surprise for you." I packed a few clothes, my heart suddenly lighter, as if I had just shed a heavy burden. When the bus stopped in Astoria, I stepped off, the salty ocean breeze tugging at my hair. In front of my grandparents' house, I stopped in shock. A bright red Ford Mustang sat gleaming in the driveway under the sun. Eleanor and Thomas stood on the porch, my grandfather holding up a set of keys, his eyes twinkling. "This is your graduation gift, Vivian," he said in his deep, steady voice. My jaw dropped. "What? But how did you afford this?" Eleanor pulled me onto the living room couch, gripping my hands tightly. "Listen, dear. After Margaret cut us off, we invested in a few small tech companies. Now they've grown and we're wealthier than your mother ever imagined. But we chose to live simply. We don't flaunt our money." I threw my arms around them, tears spilling down my cheeks. Not out of pain, but for the first time, out of happiness. "I can't believe this. I always thought you..." Thomas chuckled, cutting me off. We were just waiting for the moment you needed us most. That day they threw me a small celebration. Apple pie, grilled meat, and a handwritten sign that read, "Congratulations, valedictorian Vivian." For the first time, I felt like the center of attention, not just a shadow. Meanwhile, my phone buzzed repeatedly, messages from Sophia. Photos of her lounging on the Santa Barbara beach, captioned, "Living like a princess, hope you're having fun at home." I glanced at the Mustang outside, smiled, and replied, "Congrats, sis." I found my own happiness too. But as I set my phone down, Eleanor walked in, holding a thick envelope, her expression serious. "Vivian, there's something we need to talk about. Your mother just called back, and she knows you're here. It seems like she's planning something." For 2 weeks after my parents and Sophia left for California, I thrived in Astoria. The bright red Mustang became my companion, gliding along the coastal roads, carrying a freedom I had never known. I still worked at Honeybloom, but now, every dollar I earned was for my future, not to prove anything to anyone. Meanwhile, Sophia continued sending bragging photos, lounging by the pool, holding a cocktail on the beach, always with captions like, "This is the real life, hope you're enjoying yourself at home." I merely smirked, running my fingers over the leather steering wheel, knowing she had no idea that I had already broken free from the shadow they had caged me in. The day they returned, I was ready. I parked the Mustang right in front of our house in Oregon, its glossy red paint catching the sunlight, making it impossible to ignore. Inside, I sat in the living room, pretending to read, but my eyes stayed locked on the window. The taxi pulled up, kicking up a cloud of dust as it came to a stop. Sophia was the first to step out, tanned, carrying designer shopping bags, flashing a toothy grin. Mother followed, her blonde hair windblown, while my father dragged heavy suitcases, sweat glistening on his forehead. They chatted excitedly until my mother suddenly froze, her eyes locking onto the car. "Oh my God, what is that?" she shrieked, her voice rising like a siren, pointing at the Mustang as if it were an alien spaceship. Sophia bumped into her, nearly dropping her bags, her jaw hanging open. A new car? Who parked that here?" My father dropped the suitcases, his face flushing red from the heat and shock. "Vivian, get out here now," he barked. I stepped onto the porch, hands tucked in my pockets, and smirked. "What's wrong, Dad? You don't like my new car?" They turned to me, eyes burning with disbelief. "Your car?" Sophia screeched, stomping toward the Mustang like she wanted to kick it to pieces. "Where did you get the money for this? How much baking do you have to do to afford a car like this?" Mother stormed in, hands on her hips, voice sharp as a blade. "Vivian, don't lie to us. Who gave you the money? Did you steal from me?" I crossed my arms, my voice icy. "No one gave me anything. And I didn't steal. This is my graduation gift. From Grandma Eleanor and Grandpa Thomas. Surprised?" My mother's face turned pale, her hands trembling. "Your grandparents? Those two? But how?" My father stepped forward, his voice low but threatening. "You mean that Thomas and Eleanor? Those broke old folks I met years ago? Where the hell did they get money for a Mustang? Are you lying to me?" I pulled the keys from my pocket, twirling them between my fingers. "Believe it or not, they're richer than you think. They invested wisely, unlike some people who blow their money on vacations." Sophia lunged, grabbing my wrist. "Give me the keys. If it's a graduation gift, I should get one too. I deserve it more." I yanked my hand free, chuckling coldly. "Touch my car, Sophia, and see what happens. You just got back from California, what more do you want?" Mother screamed, her voice piercing. "Vivian, how dare you talk like that? Give Sophia the car, she deserves it more than you. You're just a baker, why do you need a luxury car?" My father nodded. "Exactly. Sophia is going to college. She needs a reliable vehicle. You can just walk?" I stepped back, gripping the keys tightly. "This is mine, and no one is taking it. Grandma and Grandpa gave it to me, not this family." My mother whipped around to my father, panic flashing in her eyes. "Henry, Call Eleanor, ask that woman where she got the money to spoil Vivian like this. My father snatched his phone, furiously dialing. When Thomas picked up, his voice came over the speaker, calm but sharp. Henry, long time no see. How do you like Vivian's car? Pretty, my father stammered. Where the hell did you get the money for a Mustang? Don't tell me you hit the lottery. Thomas laughed. Lottery? No need. I invested years ago, and now, I'm wealthier than you. Vivian deserves this. Unlike some people who only know how to abandon her. My mother snatched the phone, her voice suddenly syrupy sweet. Dad, it's been so long. Why don't I come visit? We should talk. As a family. Thomas's voice turned cold. No thanks, Margaret, we only welcome Vivian. Don't even think about coming for money. Click. The call ended. My mother stood there, ashen-faced, while Sophia screamed. Why does Vivian get everything? I can't stand her anymore. I strode to my car, opened the door, then turned back. Whether you stand me or not, that's your problem. But next time, don't expect me to be your shadow. As I revved the engine, my mother's voice shrieked behind me. Vivian, come back here. I'm not finished with you. But I drove off, leaving them gaping in my rearview mirror.